This episode of CANADALAND is brought to you by, it's not quite 7,000 people yet. It's not a huge group of people, but you are, those of you who support us, a pretty powerful and influential group of people because the journalism that you funded this year rocked this country more than any other year. The stories that we reported, the things that would not have otherwise been known if CANADALAND hadn't reported them after lengthy investigation. These were international headlines. These were headlines in the New York Times. These were stories that touched our government at the highest level. And, usually this time of year, crowdfunding month, I talk about how a small percentage of our audience pays for our entire audience to get our stuff. I don't even know how I would quantify that. We're talking about tens of millions of people know about things because you funded it. We need you to go to CANADALAND.com/join. Have a look at our new site, have a look at the merchandise, have a look at what we want to do with your money, and support us. And this is an important part. Tell somebody when you support us. We have looked at this through the data. If you tell someone, it is akin to you giving us 50% more money. That's what it generates. If you already support us, this is a great time to tell the world why you support us. I'm going to do what I do every year at this time. I'm going to tell you what we plan to do if we hit our goals, what we plan to do with your support. I'm going to tell you what we want to give you, the stuff, the perks. We always kind of dream up some new things, and this year is no different. And I also have an announcement to make. I'm going to talk about maybe the project that we get asked about more than anything else. I've got some exciting news to reveal, and I'm going to get to all that. But before I do, this kind of missive every year, it's also a chance for us to kind of check in with you. And we do make this available to everybody. It goes out on all of our feeds because the people who support us, they want to know this stuff too often. It's where I check in and let you know how we see the work that we do and where we want to take it, and kind of make sure that it's aligned with why you're funding us or why you might decide to fund us. You may have been noticing some changes around here. And not just the theme song music changing or the artwork to this show, our new website, which you can go check out right now. That's just the aesthetics of it. We've been making changes here to our Monday show. And I want to just kind of explain a bit about how we've been thinking about it. And that's sort of how I like to do it. I mean, those of you who are funding us from the beginning know I don't like to say, give us money and then we'll do something. I like to kind of do it and demonstrate that we can do it, and then tell you how we want to take it further. So we have been changing this show. Of course, this was envisioned as a media criticism show where we talk about the rest of the Canadian media. And we've been reflecting on that role because the media is in worse shape than I think it's ever been in Canada. The media is supposed to hold power to account. And I don't think there has ever been a time that I can remember where the media has been less of a factor in keeping power accountable, where the media has had less influence. I don't think that Justin Trudeau has much to fear. I don't think it's a partisan thing. I don't think Doug Ford has any reporters he really has to worry about. I think that some of this is Canadian stuff, that when there's a big crisis, everybody kind of falls into line, but it also is coinciding with the resources of media being just completely devastated. And it can get very easy to find fault with the media every week, and we will, and we do. And that's our core role, is to keep an eye on the media itself. But our thinking about the work that we do here has increasingly been that we don't want to just be in a position of talking about what is deficient with others. We want to fill in those gaps. And on this show, you have heard us reporting about the occupation at Landback Lane. Maybe you heard that here before you heard that anywhere else, before Carl Dockstader was arrested for his reporting and forbidden to continue that reporting. Our deep dive into the Epoch Times, a newspaper that may have shown up on your doorstep. That is something you heard about on this show. Our response to the pandemic, where we sat down and thought, all right, what is the very best we can do for our supporters here? And that included doing things like our cross-country COVID checkup, where we had people call in and just talk about their experiences in the early days of the pandemic, how it was affecting the media. It had to do with us doing original reporting, where Justin Ling went into the prisons and looked at how that population was completely at risk and the government was doing nothing, and now there's an outbreak. You may have heard that here first as well. But it's also meant things like the isolation interviews, where we just realized that we are in this position where people are welcoming us into their brains, into their homes at a time of tension and anxiety, and we could connect people and we could just talk about this in a different way. And Commons, of course, doing its incredible deep dive, devastating stories from long-term care. It goes across the network, the way we've been trying to rethink our role. We also have been doing things that we have done for a long time, like talk to Andre Picard, the health reporter from the Globe and Mail, interview other journalists about their work, like Kash's incredible interview with Anna Mailer-Paperny, that episode, What It's Like to Want to Die. We'll still do that. We still do that. We still talk about what's happening in our newsrooms, whether we're talking to Shri Paradkar or Adrian Harewood and trying to look at what's happening in the world through the lens of media. We continue to bring you those shows, but more and more, we are trying to bring you original reporting and really expand our notion of what this show can be. That report from Suresh Das about how the pandemic is changing how food is produced and distributed was one of my favorite episodes this past year. Really, the grand big idea here is that we want to make the very best current affairs / news show in Canada. Nothing less than that. It's kind of open for somebody to do that. I don't know who's doing that kind of definitive show, the show you have to listen to. We want to expose you to more people, new voices that you haven't heard before, more correspondence. If we get 1,000 new supporters or upgraded supporters, we're going to give you some very good reasons to increase your support if you already support the show. If we can get 1,000 of you, we're going to boost our journalism. We are going to honor our journalists. We're going to make those resources available to make this work more sustainable. I have watched my colleagues here rise to the occasion and be equal to the moment of this global pandemic and give everything they have and leave nothing on the table and work themselves to the bone. And I want to honor them and support them. One thing that's really suffered is just the joy of this work. Like, there's nothing like a newsroom, being around your colleagues, both just in terms of how much fun that can be, but also just when ideas are flying and people's contacts and input gets multiplied by other people overhearing. That's hard to do right now. We want to find every way we can to reinstate that and to bring more people into the fold, create opportunities for new people who want to start working with us, and in any way we can get that newsroom humming the way that it should. When people care about their work, you need to find other ways to support them. What we want to do, if we get 250 supporters past that, new or upgraded, we want a permanent French media beat as part of what we do here at CANADALAND. We have received a tremendous response to our recent episode, The New Solitudes, with Émilie Nicolas, and I can think of no greater addition to our coverage than to routinely plug people into what is happening with French language media in Canada and just destroy the wall that separates us from understanding and knowing about what's happening in these different worlds. And it's just fucking interesting stuff. And I want to make an ongoing permanent commitment to bringing you those stories as well. We have goals beyond that. We have already made a serious commitment to covering Indigenous issues in this country and hiring Indigenous journalists to do that. But we want to make a formal and permanent commitment to an Indigenous beat. And it goes on from there. If we can get the momentum that I think we can this year, we are looking at British Columbia. We're looking at Alberta, which is a news-starved province. We're looking at ways of telling stories that are like, it's incredible how much is going unreported in this country right now. I think we should have a permanent climate beat here at CANADALAND. I think you're getting an idea of how we see ourselves growing as an organization. And that's really what I'm asking you to get behind. So there you go. That's the grand vision for the year ahead and beyond. And now I want to tell you what we want to give you in exchange for it. As you've heard me say many times, it's never been easier to support CANADALAND than it is now. And for everything I'm talking about, you want to go to CANADALAND.com/join.